This morning, as I came out of my meditation, I had a memory pop up, and I thought it might be something to share in a video. Because for me, it was a real eye-opener and has stayed with me for many, many years as a reminder of the potential harm of an unthinking or selfish act. So today I thought I would just talk about this for a few minutes because I really think it's important for starseeds to know. I mean, it's important for everyone, but especially for those star beings who have awakened to their power as creators. When a star being begins to remember who she or he is, they must also realize that there are guidelines that must be followed that are more consequential for themselves than for others. It's fairly easy for a starseed to ignore or not to realize their own power. This is mostly because they're used to being human and therefore acting in human ways, especially the younger seeds who are under immense intimidation to be socially accepted by their peers. They're under much more pressure than seeded souls that have been here long enough to understand how tactful and discerning they must be to avoid the human impulse to act on their emotions and bringing potential harm to themselves and others through their careless words or actions. One starseed is more powerful than thousands of sleeping humans and can therefore bring more positive or negative consequences through their actions, especially through the spoken word. For example, negative words spoken by anyone can have a deep psychological or even physical impact on another and harm their mental and physical health. But these same words spoken through a starseed have a much stronger creative vibratory force behind them and are embedded with more power and therefore more energetic repercussions to the other. A starseed can either kill or heal through their spoken words, and mostly the intent behind them. Therefore, the way I see it, it's imperative that we learn to react and create from our hearts rather than from our sensitivities or hurt feelings. For example, let's create a scenario where a human has hurt a starseed, either unknowingly or on purpose, by something they said or did, and this has wounded the sensitive starseed greatly. Well, how might this star soul react to this betrayal? And let's say the other person even apologizes and asks for forgiveness, yet the starseed is still very hurt and angry. And after the anger has festered for a while, it may even escalate into a desire to get back at them, to show the other how hurt they are. And they may choose some sort of retaliation or vengeance. Well, this is one of the most dangerous emotions for a starseed to hold because of the strong internal power they possess as an advanced being. And if they haven't yet learned to control their emotions, they can fall into the very weakness they came to encounter and overcome as an incarnated human during the process of ascension. Well, obviously, I would like to believe that most advanced souls, even immersed into the lower densities of the 3D collective field, could catch themselves and stop before lashing out in defense or counterattack. However, because the star being has become so humanized, so to speak, he has acquired those human tendencies and responses learned through others and movies and TV. And as a consequence, he may lay into the other as one might expect, using similar hateful words as those that the other has just shouted at him. In this circumstance, even though these were pretty much the same words that were just shouted toward the starseed, if the starseed chooses to return the insult by yelling these same sort of threats back, the impact they have on the other increases tenfold or more and goes directly into the mind and cells of the other, affecting them greatly. You know, it's like a form of black magic. Although the detrimental effects of these poisonous words may not be immediately obvious, the physical health of the receiver of this attack has been negatively altered and truly may never return to the exact state of health of before the assault. Even though some may say he deserved the consequences, this will never be a beneficial use of a starseed's power. A starseed came here to help, not to harm. And the only way we can do that is to learn to keep our responses and actions kind and loving. Another extremely harmful emotion for anyone, yet especially star beings, is jealousy. Allowing jealousy to arise and remain in the mind of an awakened soul is a powerful weapon and can only do harm and can never be able to help any tenuous situation. It can be a hard emotion to guard against because there's so much emphasis put upon humans here to protect their property and possessions. Jealousy is a huge test for an awakened one, in spite of the fact that they've already learned and know that this is a perfect opportunity to practice forgiveness. And yet, that's often the last thing they're drawn to do. And this is because it's what is taught here, to look out for number one. Well, I have a personal story about this weakness that I thought I might share. When I first met my husband, he had been dating another girl. Although they had broken up, they still worked together and had remained close friends. Well, from the current state of spoiled brat that I was in at that time, I fell into a very childish state of jealousy, becoming really possessive and threatened by the girl's continuing presence in our lives. It's really hard to admit what a whiner I was about this situation. In reality, I had absolutely nothing to fear, but I don't think I really knew or trusted that. And I could tell it really disappointed my soon-to-be husband as I sulked every time her name came up. Again, it's really embarrassing to admit, but I couldn't seem to bring myself out of this foolish state of jealousy. Well, one day she bought him a beautiful hanging fern as a housewarming gift. And I'm ashamed to say that every time I saw that fern, it reminded me of her. And without really realizing it, the fern kind of became a symbol of herself or her persona. It was almost as if she had sort of a physical presence in our apartment. Well, one day I was hurrying to get ready to go to work, and I bumped into the fern on my way out the door. Well, that just really annoyed me. And without a second thought, I jerked it down off the hanger, and on my way out to the parking garage, I stopped in front of the big dumpster and angrily threw the fern over the side, grumbling out something like, "Goodbye, so-and-so, you're now out of our lives forever." Well, the very next day, I was told that on that same day that I had tossed the fern overboard, this girl had fallen over a cliff and into a ravine and ended up breaking her leg. When I heard what happened to her, I immediately felt my heart sink down into my shoes, and I just knew I had been the cause of her fall. And yeah, I know, I'm pretty sure that most everyone would say that this was only a coincidence, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that it was me. I've never believed in coincidences and was devastated to think I could possibly have been responsible for something so cruel and horrific. I felt so distressed and remorseful that I had directed so much anger and vengeance toward another person who, knowing what I know, is another version of myself. Then it turned out that because she had so much recuperative time, she ended up losing her job and eventually moved to another state. So yeah, that whiny brat that I was had ended up getting exactly what I had originally wished for. But oh my God, at what cost? And what could I do? I mean, I knew I would never be able to take away the pain she had suffered. But maybe what I could do was to learn from the situation. And hey, I decided right then and there, no more jealousy. It was one of the biggest lessons of my life. So, I guess my message here is that the power of our words, and even our thoughts and ideas and the intent behind them, can either harm or uplift. What I've learned from that unfortunate use of power is to try to always ask myself, is what I'm about to say or do going to harm or help? Is it going to be kind or unkind? Is it, in the long run, going to add to the greater good? I mean, we don't come here to be perfect, but we do come here to learn from those those blunders that we've made, those errors of judgment, and to discover ways to control those negative impulses and emotions that might trigger an unkind action or statement. And through it all, from inside all that self-examination and shadow work, to learn to let it pass, let things go, and forgive not only others, but ourselves. And within that forgiveness and love, to hopefully eventually discover and become our greatest selves. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.